forced us to do a little bit of an audit on how we're running things, on how we're approaching things, and almost do a little bit of a reset.
So Theo, tell me, what inspires you?
This year, more than any other year in a long time, has been a year of learning. So I think it's really hit home pretty hard how inspiring and how motivating it is just to keep on learning, keep on growing. With COVID and everything going on this year, we were kind of forced into being in a position of discomfort, and being a bit uncomfortable and uncertain, and it forced us to do a little bit of an audit on how we're running things, on how we're approaching things, and almost do a little bit of a reset, which was fantastic. So I actually found the whole experience the last few months, I tend to look at the glass half full, but I actually found it to be quite a positive journey coming the last 6 months. It was just a lot of growth, a lot of learning, and that's what I've been doing now. Even 20 years in practice, you're still learning every day. So I think that's the most.
Yeah, I guess for me, I know that myself, I've been sitting in a chair a lot more than I would have because of COVID. And from a chiropractic point of view, I've had needs to get adjusted because of getting back into the exercise. It throws you around pretty quickly, and all of a sudden you find the alignments that you've taken for granted are not there, and you need restoration. So how have you found the clients coming back to you? Good shape, not so good shape?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that there was a huge effect, from the shift in the lifestyle, people working from home and being more sedentary. You saw that effect big time. Our nervous system is a massive feedback system, and our body is designed to move, and that's what keeps the engine running and maintains a good healthy flow between the brain and body to keep things functioning well. So as soon as you go through prolonged periods that are sedentary, it does have an effect on your body's physiology, its function. And that I was kind of expecting, especially when it looked like people were going to be transitioning to home. I knew would have a lot of those patients coming through, and that was just the flavor of the week every week. The one thing which unfortunately caught me a little bit off guard were the massive effects to mental health, and the effects that has on as well. So there was a period, things are good now, which is great, but there was a period there, probably about maybe 2 months into that lockdown period, where a lot of our clients were just really challenged, just not coping. And I first time in 20 years, I really hit hard, home, just the effects that had on their physical health, their physiology, just from being through those prolonged periods of stress and the effects of stress on the body. So again, when we were talking about learning before, it meant we had to change our systems, our protocols, and how to address that and help those clients redirect that energy and create a more positive sort of direction to it. Because there was a lot of charge there, a lot of polarity, but people were just putting it in the wrong direction, So that was another thing we noticed, which unfortunately was pretty bad, pretty acute. But thankfully, people are coming around now. They're adapting and doing a lot better. And obviously with the restrictions easing, it's much brighter right now, which is great. It's good seeing the other end of it.
Yeah, I noticed that, steering me towards the Ablespine, which is to help with sympathetic dominance and the curvature of spine, has been a great help for me because of lower back pain and like my kyphosis situation. Have you found a good uptake on the Ablespine through this period?
Absolutely. Ablespine is something that we designed and created a little while ago as something that patients can use for their home care, just to help manage their posture, their alignment, and to stretch and for recovery between treatments. But obviously with people working from home, there was definitely a massive uptake on exercise equipment, rehabilitative aids and whatnot. So definitely there was existing users were contacting us on more literature on how to do more exercises on it. And obviously we saw a huge uptake on it, patients just investing in it for their home care need. And as well as that, we've also, just during this COVID period, when you've got more time, it also helped us focus on that business as well, which was great. We were able to do things which we may not have addressed until early next year, hadn't it not been for the extra time we had because of COVID. So that was another positive thing, just making the most of the downtime and being productive and proactive. But yeah, it has been busy on the Ablespine front as well. It's been fantastic, which is great. It's unreal.
Well, I also noticed that you gave me some routine, consistent exercises, which seem very subtle, but I've kept them up because I've felt for some reason they've prevented me from locking up, so to speak. And I'm just wondering, how do you work in with other allied health professionals because of, say, myotherapists, exercise physiologists, any of the people that refer in and out? Because there is or has been some controversy around chiropractic services, but I'm a convert. I'm a firm believer of the value of it, hence why I attend your clinic and invited you on here, because I feel you add a really good dimension to my holistic health. So how do you work with others there?
Look, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the outcome for the patient and the needs and requirements of the client. So every patient's an individual. So regardless of what their background is, what their condition is, the most important thing is to get the right outcome, help them solve their problem. And not everyone responds with just chiropractic care. Some people need co-management with an exercise physiologist or a physiotherapist. So I think it's so important to be first and foremost open to the needs and requirements of the patient. So other practitioners in my area, or that I co-manage with other patients, with other practitioners, I find I have a very open dialogue. You have to have open and professional and positive correspondence. And I've almost got my network of, allied professionals that I co-manage patients with, whether it be a physio specifically for TMJ issues that know more about how the jaw works, or my therapist that does dry needling and cupping that will assist with a hamstring. It's really important to make sure you're giving the right care to the patient, because some patients require more of one modality than the other. So, but yeah, good communication, good note keeping, and good correspondence amongst the professional network. I think once you lead by example, it's reciprocated. It's fine. And I found, maybe if you asked me the same question 10, 15 years ago, there was a bit of that. You wouldn't get much team care, but nowadays I think that's a bit of an old school kind of way of thinking nowadays. Especially the younger generation coming through, the co-management of patients is much more professional, and obviously with the internet and Zoom and whatnot, and email, it's just so much more efficient. But I enjoy co-managing patients. It's good, as long as the patients are getting better.
Well, I know both of us are involved in sport activities as well. And we both have a martial arts background, and you're passionate about your jiu-jitsu. And, obviously when you take a tumble and a fall, there's things that move around. So how do you define good health, and what do you do to inaugurate balance in all the things that you do and submit yourself to?
Yeah, well, I think balance is a key. I think it's important to lifestyle now, like today's life is very complex, and it can be very complex and very busy. And that language of the mind, the busy lifestyle, addressing a million different tasks and trying to do a million different things, can cause a lot of charge in our body. And sometimes to equilibrate that, it's important to be sleeping well. It's important to be exercising well, eating well. You have to. I think good health is just finding the right balance for yourself among all those aspects of our life. Sometimes people think good health or good feelings is just being successful at one thing, which might be just working hard and getting a result. But I think it's important just to have a balance amongst all those things. With me, for exercise, I think it's just a matter of just equilibrating that charge that builds up from potentially stress or a lot of hard work. It just, when you have a good workout, it stimulates your nervous system in a way that puts you into a recovery state, so your body can go into a healing state. It creates a flow of healthy nootropics, which can calm your mind and give you that feeling that's a nice, content, satisfying feeling. Suppresses that buildup of cortisol in your body. And it just increases, obviously, strength and conditioning. I started, and you learn a lot. I started jiu-jitsu at the age of 43, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And initially, the initial, surface level conscious type idea behind it was I just get a bit stronger and a bit fitter. But I found over the last year or two that it's actually helped more with mental health and just calming the nervous. Because it's one of those martial arts where it's a bit uncomfortable, especially at the start, getting in there, and it can be a bit confronting. There could be a bit of confrontational anxiety, especially when you start rolling and competing with other people. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable in that space, and also collapsing all that confrontational anxiety. I mean, the last time I had a confrontation with someone physically was when I was a kid in high school, and here I'm at 43 rolling with guys, doing live rounds every week. It collapses all that energy. So, and I found myself walking into meetings and going into business meetings or whatnot, and just feeling calm and relaxed, and thinking normally I get a bit anxious or get a bit nervous before this, but I found that the benefits have been far greater mentally, which has just been absolute gold, just feeling more relaxed. So that's been another awesome thing with maintaining a good level of exercise, and just something that's out of your comfort zone. It's there's many times you feel like, oh geez, I don't want to go tonight, but as soon as you get in, as soon as you finish and hit the showers, you just feel like you really earned your right to a bit of a reward after that, the mental, physical, emotional reward. It's been unreal. I've loved it, So,
well, I know with putting myself through the paces at the age of 68, I get told off a lot, you're not a kid anymore, and, know your limitations. But I do know my limitations. I'm careful with what I do, but it is a bit extreme sometimes, and sometimes I've got to come to you and others for repair. But what I really like about the whole chiropractic model, in the beginning, I was sensing that it was a little bit like Reiki, someone stands over you and does something, something's happened, but you can't see it. Well, I felt like that with chiropractic, but now what I find is I'm conscious when I'm out of alignment. And sometimes the disalignment can be so subtle. And when that is the case, you're exacerbating yourself when you're expending energy through exercise, and you're not following the biomechanical structures of your body. So I don't think a lot of people realize what chiropractic is and what it's for. They think, oh, bone cruncher, or he twisted my neck. They just don't understand that if they're moving and bone is grading on bone and things aren't sorted out and assessed properly, they can be in serious trouble. And when you talked about mental health, I know from the point of view of posture and Feldenkrais and so many other modalities, that your posture, your alignment, your mobility, your biomechanics, they all are interrelated. And how much study and background goes into being a chiropractor, and how much additional study does a lot of chiropractors do? Because I meet some very knowledgeable chiropractors.
Look, it's a double degree. It's a Bachelor of Medical Science and Bachelor of Chiropractic Science at RMIT. It's a 5-year course. But the thing is, that's, again, when you study and learn the theory and pass all your exams, again, that's language of the mind. When you start practicing and feeling and expressing, that's language of the body. And I think once you get out there, I'm a bit of a practical person. As soon as I started applying you know, the art of chiropractic and doing adjustments. You know, you start to learn more as you go into practice. But the biggest thing for me, more so the last maybe 6-7 years, was because you learn all these different things in school, and then when you get out of work by doing further training in seminars and workshops, is kind of putting it all together and understanding what affects what and how and why. And it can get a bit complicated. I found the last 5-6 years I focused more so on the neurology and the nervous system side of what a chiropractor does, because at the end of the day, when you're doing a chiropractic adjustment, you're just trying to take interference off the nervous system and increase that brain-body connection. And I found over the years that when you'd adjust certain patients certain ways, that have a certain functional change, you know, so things would improve with their health. And I wouldn't always understand or pinpoint what actually caused that. I just know that was an effect of it. So my focus the last 6-7 years was learning more about the nervous system, the functional aspects, the functional neurology aspect of it. So I know when I do a type of adjustment, I can quantify what it's going to do, you know, the effect it's going to have on the body, and have a better understanding what the outcome's going to be by having a better knowledge of the neuroanatomy. So I focused a lot more study, particularly the last 6-7 years, more on neuroanatomy and functional neurology, the effect of the adjustment and the effect it has on the nervous system and the outcome with the patient's health. And that's been really exciting because, you know, you can sort of really almost predict the outcome you're going to have after an adjustment, you know, the functional effect. At the end of the day, the patient does all the healing. The patient does all the work. The chiropractic adjustment or chiropractic care just facilitates that process. Chiro just, you know, takes that interference away from the nervous system, increases that brain-body connection, and through movement and nutrition, good sleep, and good advice, you know, combined with that, the patient does all the work, you know, which is fantastic. So.
So your model of the world, your worldview, what do you consider being successful is in relation to your world and your existence? What do you see as successful?
Well, the definition of that has changed a lot, you know, and it still changes over time. I think at the end of the day, there's definitely a component of balance associated with, I think, being successful. But I think first and foremost, I think there's no greater feeling or greater achievement than being in a position where you can serve someone, when you've got something to offer that people value. So I think one factor of being successful is finding that, and finding something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, and that you're good at, and that something that's aligned with the values of other people, that other people are willing to pay their hard-earned money for. If you can find that right balance and be of service to someone, and have a service or a product that's in line with the values of other people, that they're willing to have a good exchange, and do that with integrity, transparency, honesty, I think that's successful. Because sometimes people measure success based on just the outcome, not just the process of getting there, the journey. Because there's nefarious ways of getting a good outcome, you know, there's dodgy ways of doing it. But if you can kind of put all those pieces of the puzzle together, create a healthy, fair exchange that's transparent and honest, and obviously thriving, I think that's a feeling of success for me, you know, just finding that balanced exchange. And I think when you get to that, if you start noticing that when there's a momentum there, you don't feel like you're selling anything. You've got something good that people value, and there's a balanced exchange, you know. I think that feels great, and you're not burning off energy. It feels sustainable, you know.
I really like that outlook, Theo. It's healthy, because for me, I love adding value, hence what I do, and I like to really enjoy the process. I set outcomes because that's directional, that's compass, and that's motivation.
Sure.
But for me, the process is king, because I don't want to trample anybody. I don't want to create spot fires on the way to where I'm going. So I really concur with what you've said. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
Well, again, it's funny. looking back, like retrospectively, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you that they were great challenges. And then as time's passed on, you look back and you think they were probably blessings. So I think I had a few big challenges in the early stages of my professional career. I was in a position where I was just starting my own practice. I worked as an associate for a couple of years when I finished chiropractic. And after a couple of years of doing that, I felt like I learnt the ropes to the business, and I wanted to start my own business. And I dived straight in and leased a property and started from nothing. And I felt after about a year or two in, I started to get a little bit of momentum going. It was starting to establish. It looked like it was going to be a good business. And for some reason, I attracted a horrible landlord in my life, and at the time, and I remember as a young business person setting up a business, he created huge challenges with making my life pretty hard. As I grew, he wanted more, and he was moving the goalposts with our agreements and all this sort of stuff. But without boring about the specifics of what was going on there, at the time it felt like such a massive challenge, because I felt like I was being a victim. So, like, sometimes things pop up like that and you feel like, oh shit, why do I deserve this? I'm doing all the right things, and and it felt really hard, like I was getting pushed into the corner, and just as I'm starting to get ahead, this guy's trying to take a piece of it and make my life difficult. At the time that was happening, I was in a position where I could have grown a lot more, or taken another direction, or challenged myself personally a lot more. But out of fear, maybe lack of self-confidence, fear of failure, I wouldn't have, hadn't taken that next step. And I think life sometimes, when you don't push when you're supposed to, you'll attract these so-called challenges to guide you in that direction. It's almost like a street sign trying to get you back on track, because the pain of what this guy was putting me through got so acute that it forced me to look for greener pastures and invest in my own practice, and grow even bigger, and take on a few more risks so that I can take the next step and have more security. So it's almost like, at the time, it felt like a massive challenge professionally, like with what was going on with my work. But a couple of years after, I look back and I think about this person, all I can feel in my heart is gratitude and love, because I think if he wasn't such a bastard, I wouldn't have gone in the right direction. And I think sometimes you attract that yourself if you get off track, if you're not pushing the direction you're supposed to be going to. And that's why part of my philosophy, like even with the jiu-jitsu in the last 2 years, is going into the storm, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Otherwise, you don't grow. Like what we said at the start, it's, learning, growing, developing. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't avoid the discomfort. If it's there, just accept it, absorb it, and learn from it,
I can really identify with what you're saying, and I'm taking a few leaves out of that book myself and got a few stories there. But
sure,
I look back on my life now and I smile and I go, geez, I didn't smile at the time, but I smile now, and I do appreciate that buffeting and that resistance, because I don't know if Nietzsche was right, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it has made me stronger and more resilient, more accepting. I'm a happy soul, and I know that a lot of people can be suffering anxiety, depression, emotional stress, a whole lot of things. And what I've found is the chiropractic practice has assisted in those areas. So while we're here and understanding you have some time constraints, I'd like to just mention to the people out there that Theo Roubos is practicing from Back For Health in Elwood. And he's the proud father of 2 boys, 10 and 6 years of age, and married for 15 years. He's passionate and motivated by the pursuit of excellence in challenges of various shapes and sizes. And he's been serving the Elwood community for about the last 20 years. So I have gone through a lot of health practitioners in my life to find the ones that have docked with me. And I left a really amazing practitioner on the other side of town, and then when I found you, I felt that I hadn't lost anything moving across. So I was pretty happy with that. So
I'm on it. Thanks,
what I'd
mate.
like to know before we wrap this up is what's on the horizon for the future for you?
I suppose, I don't know, you just, you always feel like you want to come to an end goal, like a conclusion to something, like achieve a goal, and then that's it. But I think it's important to keep an open plate there, you know, an open page there, and just keep growing, keep learning. I've never been a good what's it called? A good manager, let's say, or a good mentor with staff. My wife manages that side of the business. But what I'm trying to do, and what I've been trying to do the last 4 or 5 years, is improve on that. And not only for my staff, but even for my kids. You mentioned my 2 boys. They're just getting of an age now where you're a real influence in their lives. So the biggest thing for me going forward is just leading by example, and you know, trying to provide a good message and a good example for my kids, for my staff, for my patients, just to maintain some good balance and positivity out in the world. You know, my dad did that for me. A lot of the values we talked about and the things we talked about today were things, you know, I learned working with my dad when I was a kid in the family business. So going forward, you know, it's all about, you know, continuing that leading by example with those good values, those good hierarchy of values, trying to maintain a bit of positivity out there.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, there you have it. Theo Roubos from Back For Health and FKC Health. If you would like to hit the subscribe button and put in there, hit the bell, you'll find many other wonderful videos on health and motivation, mental health. And Theo, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to my next appointment early next year.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I look forward to it as well. Thanks very much.
Absolute pleasure.